Pins and needles. That's exactly what I was feeling just a couple of weeks ago when we first launched Rooftop Leadership Mastery, the online membership program for rooftop leaders around the world to work with my tribe and me on becoming the kind of leader who inspires people to stand up on their own in trust depleted times and do things they otherwise wouldn't do, right? Pins and needles. I was really, really nervous about the launch of this. Even though I've been out of the military for 5 years, I speak and train on this all over the world. I feel like I'm very competent in it. I've helped a lot of people. We've seen millions of dollars in return on investment, both for donors and nonprofits and for-profits, and I've seen people's lives change. Why in the world would I feel this kind of pins and needles type effect, this reluctance, for something that I've been doing effectively in person? It seems this way I can reach more people, I can have a deeper impact. What's going on? And I will tell you something else too. If it weren't for Wes, who's off camera here, and Jamie and Becca, my team, and my wife Monty, I don't know that I would have even gone through with the launch. In fact, in the last 5 years since I've been out of the military, dozens of times I've shot content, I've created digital content with the full intention of making it available to you, and I haven't done it. Right? I've pulled it back, and I've reserved the opportunity to work with me and me work with you only if we meet face to face and you decide to do it then. Even though I know it'll have a deeper, broader impact to do it, in the digital marketplace. Why? Why would I resist that so hard? Well, it's one word, and it's called resistance. And that's our topic this week, in the final week of talking about Know Your Enemy, which is our theme for the month. This week, the theme is resistance. Now, we've talked about other enemies. We've talked about the erosion of trust. We've talked about distraction through the Guppy Effect. Enemies in this sense are the enemies that stand between you and the tracks you want to leave in this world. The goals as a rooftop leader that you want to fulfill on, that will help people and inspire people to take action to do bigger things because they want to, not because they have to. That enemy. The enemy that will put itself between you and the tracks you want to leave, the impact you want to make. And it is only fitting that the final week we talk about resistance, because I believe resistance is the greatest enemy you will ever face in achieving an impact bigger than yourself, in playing a bigger game as a rooftop leader. Resistance, in its simplest form, is self-sabotage. So the things that I was talking about with my reluctance to launch the Rooftop Leadership Mastery, I'm just being real with you guys, that could have kicked my butt, right? And it has before. But my teammates saw it, and they helped me push through it. And I also have a system now to deal with resistance. Resistance still shows up in my life every day, but I have a regimen that I train with that allows me to overcome resistance, right? But for all of us, resistance is self-sabotage. And I believe it is the greatest enemy you, as a rooftop leader, will face as a parent, as a business owner, as a leader at your business, a nonprofit leader, you name it. Resistance is going to show up if it's serving a bigger purpose. Now, I labeled it self-sabotage. Steven Pressfield, my favorite author, or one of my favorite authors in the world, wrote the book War of Art. And this book is a must-have for rooftop leaders. If you work with me in any capacity, you need to get this book, War of Art, by Steven Pressfield. Because in this book, Steven Pressfield, a best-selling author, he talks about what he went through in creating his own work and how difficult it was, even as an accomplished writer, to do that. And this negative energy that shows up in our life when we're close to a goal or when we're on our path to a goal, and he named it. He called it resistance. And one of the most important things that you can do when you're dealing with an enemy, I talk about this in my book, Game Changers, is you have to name your enemy. If you don't name your enemy and you don't know your enemy, you can't overcome your enemy, right? So Steve named this negative energy that shows up in our life and puts itself between our higher purpose and our goals. He named it resistance. And this whole book, he either talks about how resistance shows up or he gives you methods in which you can overcome it. But the first thing I want to read from you in Steve's book is called The Unlived Life, right? Here it is. Most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. Have you ever brought home a treadmill and let it gather dust in the attic? Ever quit a diet, a course of yoga, a meditation practice? Have you ever bailed out on a call to embark upon a spiritual practice? Dedicate yourself to a humanitarian endeavor. Commit your life to the service of others. Sound familiar? Have you ever wanted to be a mother, a doctor, an advocate for the weak and helpless, to run for office, crusade for the planet? Late at night, have you experienced a vision of the person you might become, the work you could accomplish, the realized being you were meant to be? Are you a writer who doesn't write, a painter who doesn't paint, an entrepreneur who never starts a venture? Remember my little hang up there? Then you know what resistance is. So that's where he goes to first name this thing, right? And I will tell you, resistance is a powerful negative force in every one of us. And as tough as we think the outside world is on us and putting itself in our dreams, 9 times out of 10, it's the inner self-sabotage that will cut our knees out and keep us from fulfilling on the big dreams that you have for your life. In fact, it's probably the culprit that has got you in your life where you are right now. How about that? My friend David Martin, who's a fellow coach with me, he calls himself, or at least when he was younger, the king of second place, because every time he would get close to the finish line, guess what he would do? He'd find a way to take his own knees out, or resistance would, right? Inside of us, we have a positive energy that lifts us up to that higher purpose, to leave our tracks. But just like everything else in life, there is a counterforce, negative energy, self-sabotage, resistance that will put itself between us and our goals. And a lot of times we'll blame what's going on around us as the reason, but that's not really the case, right? I want to read to you from page 8, resistance is internal. Resistance seems to come from outside ourselves. We locate it in spouses, jobs, bosses, kids, peripheral opponents, as Pat Riley used to say when he coached the Los Angeles Lakers. Resistance is not a peripheral opponent. Resistance arises from within. It is self-generated and self-perpetuated. Resistance is the enemy within. So, we've named the enemy now. You know that whatever you're going after, be a better leader, roll a product out, be a better parent, whatever it is that you're pushing for to play a bigger game, resistance is going to show up. Now, here's what we got to do. The first thing is I want you to go back and I want you to reflect on the goals and the tracks that you've set for your life. The tracks for your entire life, that what you're going to leave behind that you'll be remembered for, right? I also want you to reflect on what your goals are for this year. We've been working on this. What are your goals? What are you going to toast in 2018 on New Year's Eve? That. I want you to look at those, reacquaint yourself with them, right? Because like Zig Ziglar says, motivation doesn't last, for a long period of time. That's why it's like bathing. We recommend it daily, right? So go back and reconnect to what you're going to achieve, what you're on the path for, what you're building. And then step 2, I want you to ask yourself, how has resistance shown up in my life before to stop me on this? Like, for example, I know that when I go to do this digital launch, this was going to show up. And you know what I did? I told Wes, I said, hey, Wes, just so you know, I have a hang up with this, right? This is something that I have to work through. I'm going to need your help. And I shared it with my team, right? Good communication is being willing to be transparent, authentic, and vulnerable with your teammates, right? And we all rallied together. I have my own regimen to get through it, and we pushed through it. But I had to know how it's going to show up in my life, or otherwise I'll come up with all these BS reasons of why I can't do it. It's not ready. It's not perfect. That's resistance. So step 2, I want you to look at how resistance is going to manifest itself between where you are now and the goal you want to attain. And come on, you know it shows up. It's the same old card. It'll keep showing up the same way. Maybe it's over-medicating, self-medicating. Maybe it's poor, pitiful me trips, all right? Maybe it's blaming it on others. Maybe it's just apathy. Maybe it's just sitting down and watching television too much to just drown it out, right? Maybe it's that Guppy Effect, where you pick your phone up and you just get involved in Instagram and you forget about it. But how does resistance show up and cut your knees out to keep you from achieving on those goals? And then the third thing that I want you to think about is, how do you build a regimen to overcome resistance? Couple things to remember. You got to fight resistance every day. The battle must be engaged anew every day. You'll win against resistance one day, the next day it's going to show up again, right? So what are your rituals that you do every morning when you wake up throughout the day to keep you on task, to ensure that you sit down and do your work, as Steve Pressfield says? And it's really that simple. It's your relationship to practice, the work that you do out when no one's around, that will determine the goals that you reach when people are looking and when the sun is shining, right? So what is the regimen that allows you to overcome resistance? If you're trying to lose weight, what is the relationship to practice and work that you will do? If you're trying to launch a new product, what is the regimen that you will do to keep yourself on task? And how will your team help you with that? I will tell you, that's one of the most important things you can do. If we talk about this a lot in Rooftop Leadership Mastery, our digital online membership program. We're constantly doing Zoom calls on this. I've got a lot of stuff in our Rooftop University on this. I've also our Facebook Live page, our private team room page. We're constantly talking about this. If you struggle with resistance, you know, that is a path for you to go to mastery. But whatever you choose to do, make sure you have a regimen that you hit every day that lets you overcome the way that resistance shows up in your life. That's number 3, right? Is learn a regimen that will allow you to do that. I think that's it for now. We're going to leave it there now. We're wrapping up this month on knowing your enemy. But think about resistance hard and heavy, because guaranteed that's the thing that's going to show up in your life and trip you up. So reflect on your goals and tracks. How will resistance show up there? Get very specific and concrete and build a regimen that will let you overcome it. And I'd love to see you in Rooftop Leadership Mastery on that path, learning how to do that. And you don't even have to give up your day-to-day. You can do it online at what it takes to eat out once a month and really gain some skills in that. I've trained thousands of high performers on how to do this, and I can show you how to do it too. So thanks for what you do. Thanks for following me on Instagram at rooftop_leader. Twitter at Real Scott Man, Official Scott Man on Facebook. Don't forget rooftopleadership.com. All of these video blogs, if you just subscribe there, you'll get it every week. We've got 30 some of them on YouTube. So subscribe there when this video's over and share it with other people of your tribe. This is a movement to lead at a stronger level, and overcoming resistance is key to it. I'll see you on the rooftop.